Hi, and welcome to another edition of Saddle Up. My name is Debbie Pace, and we're at Fairplay Farm. Today we're going to be talking about rider position. I like to begin my riders on the physio ball or exercise ball. This is a great way to help riders get a feel for what it's going to be like on the horse and the movement. And the ball kind of gives the rider a little bit of feedback in bowing, I call it bowing, when riding the horse, the lift and the loft from his energy that a rider receives through their body. We have our lovely assistant Patty here today to help with showing you the rider position using the ball. We're going to move Patty into a trot position, and if Patty will just come around here.
In the front or on the side?
Maybe the side here. Like this? Yep. And I'm just going to have Patty sit. So we had Patty on Hanny just showing her position at the halt in one of our editions. And so I'm going to just sort of basically go over her alignment right now. And we can see that she's sitting in a very nice upright position with her pelvis in a nice, perfect sort of alignment. I like to say that the pelvis is like a bowl, and we want that bowl to not be tipped either forwards, and just show a tipped forwards bowl. So that would be that archy back. So we see a little bit of the bowl tipping forwards, or the opposite of that sort of being on the pockets and the bowl tipping backwards. Okay? So here's sort of a rider sitting on his pockets, and here the rider is sort of perched too much on the front of their seat. So we want to find that place where we're just nicely in the middle, so her back is in a nice alignment with just a natural curve of her spine, and the pelvis is in a nice aligned position of balance. We then have to, with the pelvis being in position, it allows our joints to move with the least amount of effort. So we want our riding to be as easy as possible. When the riding is feeling easy and comfortable, we're usually in a nice aligned position. Riding really is a coordination of just our balance, timing of our aids, and a feel. And pretty much if we can coordinate those things, that's not easy, not an easy job, but if we can coordinate those things, we can be a real effective rider. So now I'm going to just show you in Patty's aligned position with her feet nicely underneath her. Just move your feet back just a hair more, Patty. We're going to just begin following in a walk. So here we are moving the horse forwards, and you see how her hip opens and closes and brings this ball, the horse, forwards, because we're wanting to always ride our horses in a forwards direction unless we're asking for a rein back, and that's the only time really that you're not asking the horse's back end to move forwards. So here she is with a following seat, very fluid, moving the ball, moving our horse forwards. So now we're going to move into a trot. And for riding English, we do what's called a posting or a rising trot. So we're going to start getting a little bit of feedback from the ball as Patty begins to, bring herself into a rising trot position. So here she is, and go ahead and get a little bit more bowing, okay? We're watching Patty. Go ahead and move your arm up out of the way, okay? So you can see how there's a sinking down and an opening of the hip angle to bring that horse, to allow that energy of that horse to move forwards, okay? And then Patty, just put your hands down, and in her position, holding the reins, her elbow is following along with her hip. This is a great way to give a rider who has never sat on a horse trotting a feel of what the trot is going to be like and what we want their body to sort of do, and in a safe environment where the ball isn't going to cause any fear in the rider. Thanks, Patty.
Okay.
So here we are with Hannigan again, and he is all prepared and ready to be tacked. Since we're talking about rider position and balance, it's important that the tack of the saddle fits properly on the horse to give the rider the best chance of finding that balance without a lot of effort. Hannigan, as we can see here, is an older horse. His muscling has dropped. So it's going to be important that his saddle fits properly. We have some indication here of an improper saddle fit in the years before we got Hannigan, and once this has happened, you will continually have these white hairs that will be with him forever. This shows a pressure point from an improper saddle fit. So I'm going to bring his saddle over and show you what we're looking for, and then we use pads here to help to bump up our less than perfect saddle. Now, if it's extremely off and not fitting, there's no way we can pad up a saddle to make it work for a horse. You think about your own shoes. If you tried to put your feet in ill-fitting shoes, too small, and actually work in them and go for a run, you're going to have a lot of sores. And this is the same thing for our animals. So I'm going to get Hannigan's saddle. And first we're going to check the saddle with no pads at all. And that gives us a good indication of how we need to either bump it up or shim it in a certain direction. Sometimes the saddle will fall off a horse on a certain side, a hip, maybe a weak hip, some atrophy on the horse's body that causes the saddle to fall. So the rider will constantly be falling off into that hole. So I have shims to help maybe pad up one side of the saddle. So we can see here that this saddle actually doesn't fit too badly on Hannigan's back, needs a little bit of lift in the rear. The way to check here in the front is he has plenty of clearance, several fingers in fact, between his spine and the pommel of the saddle. I also want to make sure that I can see light all the way through the gullet of the saddle, so there's no other places on the horse that will create pressure, which would be very uncomfortable for the horse, or excessive pressure. The saddle is made to take all of the weight of the rider and disperse it equally, and that makes for a better comfort for the horse. I'll show you several different pads that we use to help our saddles become balanced. This is a rear lifter pad. We have just a straight gel pad, and this is just something that adds a little more cushion. It feels, it's very jelly-like, and it is a solid level, and it just doesn't lift or change the balance of the saddle. It just gives a saddle that is maybe very old and has no fluff or give in the seat panels a little more squish. I also customize pads according to horses' bodies. So here's a horse that I use this pad on that has a very long wither that ties very far back onto his back, and he needs extra room, so I make it. Another scenario is we had a horse that actually had a bit of a saddle sore, so we cut a hole in our pad and make it work for our horse. And you can see these pads are pretty well used. So I'll begin to tack Hannigan, and we'll put Patty on and show you the trot.
I'm program director.
Production supervisor.
Producer, editor.
All right, Mr. Tweedle, are you ready?
I'm an editor at Oxford Community Television.
I am the station manager.
We're rolling. I'm proud to be a producer here at Oxford Community Television.
Action.
What do you do at OCTV?
I do science in the news and auto talk.
Politicians!
I'm sorry, I didn't say the right things.
What do? I'm a jack of all trades.
Actually, I almost got to play a dead body. You made more money if you played a dead body.
I love working here.
I graduated from Bell and Howell.
I went to school for it.
Team player here.
Hi, Kelly.
Dave.
And I bring all the shows that you watch together.
In the business for 40 years. I've been a production manager, I've been a program manager, I've been a general manager.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Wham! Wham! I'm a big part of the Addison Living Show.
OCTV has some of the most imaginative people working here.
You can take a story and turn it into something visual.
I'm constantly an individual who wants to learn things.
I do this because we are your voice.
I love to do music stuff here with OCTV.
I love enthusiasm. I love people who enjoy their job.
He can do that.
Anything about broadcasting, I just really loved it.
We want you.
I am.
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 I am OCTV.
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 We can do this.
So here we are up in the indoor arena, and I'm going to ask Patty to come to the inside of the circle here and just touch again on the alignment of her position. What's very important is that her feet are underneath her. Just as I'm standing on the ground with my body over my feet, so does she have to keep her body over her feet. Right now she's got her foot a little bit behind her foot. So that would be like me trying to stand and all day with my feet a little bit behind my center of gravity. So I'm going to have Patty just move her leg a tiny bit forwards and soften a little bit. There, that's it. Okay? Now, her conformation and the horse's conformation will dictate where her leg will fall, what part of her leg will find this horse's side to give him, I call it the go button, to make him go forwards. A shorter, thicker leg would be different in where that rider finds the place on the horse to make him go. And also the shape of the horse, where we call Hanny a little bit of a slab-sided horse. He doesn't have big, full ribs that spring out and take up a longer leg. So for Patty, sitting on Hannigan, it's a little more difficult for her leg to accommodate and find his side because she has such a long leg, which is lovely as a rider, and it works a little bit better for her on her horse, who's a bigger, taller, more round horse. But that doesn't mean anything is wrong with having our Hanny. So Patty's leg is now a little bit more underneath her, where her foot being her base of support. I like to give a little bit of sensation, a little bit of grounding for Patty to feel that then the rest of her position is balanced over her feet. That's that feel part of riding. She's got to be able to feel where her feet are. And that may sound pretty easy, but not so much when the horse is moving and you're dealing with all of this other energy and movement happening to find your own parts and be aware of your own parts. So we talked about the pelvis, and Patty has a nice alignment in her pelvis, and her shoulders stacked on top of her pelvis, and her head nicely balanced on top of her shoulders. So the head weighs about 9 pounds on average, 8 to 10 depending. And so if the head isn't in alignment, it's going to pull on the spine to take it out of our plumb position over our feet. So we'll ask Patty to go ahead and walk on with Hannigan and watch how, as we did with the ball, Patty's seat follows and is being allowed to move by the push from Hanny. The biggest problem with riding Hanny is he doesn't have a lot of push. So the rider has to create this with her legs. So she's giving him a little squeeze and then softening her leg a little squeeze and soften to try to energize the back end, the motor of our horse here. And Hanny's motor, he's a good beginner's horse because running off isn't his MO. Making Hanny go is our job. So this is a pretty nice walk now, and you can see Patty's seat sort of moving and being pushed by him. We don't want her to create the energy with her seat. She needs to create the energy with her leg, and then sort of like a kick and glide. We want to kick him. He needs to glide forwards with the energy, and the minute he starts to stop moving in a forwards direction, Patty needs to address that. And she can feel that before we could even see it. So she, as a rider, needs to react in a quick way to address his energy. And Patty's got a nice position in her hands and her arms. And we're going to ask Hannigan and Patty to move up to a posting or rising trot. So go ahead, Patty, and make your circle a little bit bigger, Patty, okay? So you're going to go on the other side of the jumps right now. So we can see, it's fine, how, as we did on the ball, and Patty just did a change of diagonal with her posting. So she sat one extra beat, and that's Hanny relaxing. We like to hear the putter out of a horse. But Hanny's still just a little bit underpowered. So you'll get a little more feedback, like the boing from the ball. You can see kind of the bounciness of his energy, and how Patty then, the hip angle opens up, and there's a little bit of a sinking and a dropping down onto her stirrup as she trots around. So she's giving a little aid to her leg there with the use of the stick. It's not in a you're a bad boy way. It's just in addition to, let's have a little bit more energy out of you, Hannigan. Patty's been showing us a nice demonstration of the rising trot. She's on the correct diagonal, which we can talk about in a second when we get Patty trotting again. Let's go ahead and pick up your rising trot again. So we have Patty in our posting trot again. And when riding English, we choose a diagonal set of legs to follow. So Hannigan has 2 sets of legs on the ground at the same time in the diagonal pair. So his outside foreleg and his inside hind leg are on the ground at the same time, or his outside hind, inside fore are on the ground. Patty's going to follow, when working in a ring, in an arena, the outside foreleg diagonal. So her rising or her sitting will be in unison with that diagonal set of legs. So as you can see now, she is on what we call the left diagonal. So we're following that left foreleg. It is down, 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 and she is seated, 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 following that diagonal set of legs. It is something that we do in an arena. When riding out cross country, it's not important which diagonal you take, other than the fact that you don't want to ride the same diagonal all the time, as the horse will develop more on one side than the other. And we need to try to keep the horse as symmetrical as possible. What's important about the rider's position being in balance is how much it affects our horse's way of going. You think of someone, you giving someone a piggyback ride, and that person on your back is moving all over, causing you to not be able to walk a straight line. It's the same thing for a horse. I like to say you're a package that he has to carry. And the package of you needs to be stable and balanced and supple. If it's tight and rigid, locked, and out of balance, it makes it very difficult for the horse to carry you. And then when we ask the horse to do things like, as you see in the arena now, jump a fence with a package, a rider that is out of balance, it really puts a lot of stress on the horse to do his job to the best of his ability. So having proper balance and alignment is critical for the horse to do the best job that he can. Nice job, Patty. So at the end, we like to give our horse a little thank you, job well done, a pat, a scratch, a kind word, and a treat in the pocket. You see how happy Hanny is. Well done. I've now set up a basic warm-up exercise for Patty in the walk. So I've laid out 2 ground poles, and as you see in my arena, I have painted marks on the walls. These are at 10 and 5 meter marks. So we have between my 2 blue squares on the wall, this is 10 meters long. And then in the middle, I've put red triangles which bisect the 2 blue squares. We don't have a blue square in the corner, but that is our beginning point. This is at 5 meters from the corner. So where you see a red triangle, we have 5 meters, 5 meters, and I've laid out this in a 10 meter square, and we're going to work on a 10 meter circle. This will help the horse begin to bend through his body, begin to warm up and supple up his spine and rib cage on this line, and also helps the rider to turn herself to the degree she needs to ride this circle. And riding a perfectly round circle is not an easy feat. You think that it would be simple to just ride a circle, but accuracy in the shape is very important in helping the rider and the horse become more supple and responsive. So Patty has touch points where she wants her body to touch and then move off of one point to the next point. So in that corner, Hanny fell out a little bit and made it a little more of a square. Other parts of the circle, Hanny falls in, and we have to ride him as if it was a corner on that part of our circle. So we kind of break our circle into quarters. And the thing that we first of all have to get out of Hanny to begin to ride any kind of a figure is energy. So we've got to wake Hanny up just a little bit more. You got a little jiggy, okay. And for Patty to take a nice breath and just relax her position down. It gets a rider a little tense and tight when a horse doesn't move forwards. So Patty will just use her stick behind her leg and just a little tap, to wake him up a little bit, and then hold the reins and back into our walk. So now she can use her eyes as a visual to see the touch points she needs to get her body to, and then from her chest at her sternum, Patty's going to point her light that we put on her sternum, a little flashlight, and direct that and beam that to the points and around the circle. And that helps to turn her upper body to the left so that Hanny sees where she's going. His sternum and her sternum both need to be pointed in the same direction. She also has just a nice little soft flexion in his neck to the left where she can see a little bit of his inside eye. Hanny's a little older, a little stiffer, takes a little longer for him to warm up, but this is beginning to start to become a nice little 10-meter circle. So Patty, we'll just ask him to go the other direction now. And you can come out of the circle if you need to and create a little bit more energy through our turn. And she's changed her stick to the inside. We carry our stick on the inside, typically unless the horse has an issue where an outside leg needs to be addressed and helped along a little bit. And a horse will have, just as people, a side that's easier, a stronger side and a weaker side. So she'll find it's either more difficult or easier to ride the circle in this direction. Patty, what do you feel in him? Is it easier or more difficult in this? The left is easier. So that is not uncommon. Every horse has a weak side and a strong side, a convex side and a concave side. Certain exercises are easier to do on the convex side and others on the concave side. So we'll get just a little bit more walk out of Hanny, but your leg position looks very nice. Watch a little bit of the active seat and get the energy a little bit more off of your leg. So Hanny is beginning to have got a little deep there, but beginning to shape into a pretty decent 10-meter circle here. It's not an easy job. Nice, Patty. We're going to now move Patty up into the trot rising and proceed into the 10-meter circle. She's going to ride right up to the middle of the blue paint on the poles. Those are her touch points. She has the nice visuals of the red triangles up higher. She's just got to get to the blue paint. And here you can see where he falls out on the circle at this quadrant of the circle. So Patty's got to ride a little more of a diamond shape here now. Diamond shape, that was better. Still, it could be a little bit more energy first. And that helps her steering. Without power, she can't really steer Hanny. So turning. So I want to see just a little bit more, Patty. You're doing really well on 3/4 of our circle. Our 1/4 of the circle is a square. So turning, yes. There we go. So she cut off a big part of, yes, there we go. And we're beginning to see Hanny begin to soften a little bit here and there, down. Move right up to that blue square. Don't let him, or blue paint on the pole, middle part of the pole, Patty. And we're just about done with Hanny on the small circle. I don't like to keep them on the small circle for long periods of time, especially an older horse. So let's move him out of the circle now and just finish him up with just a little bit of trotting forwards and straight. And we'll let him go to the walk, Patty. We'll just let him walk. Hanny is warmed up and ready to begin work. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Saddle Up. I hope the rider position can give you some good information for when you step in the irons, and hope to see you next time.